The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. This is Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa N Thomas. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at Tessa TNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for the archive.
But we break on command 'cause women rule the world.
Buckle up, space travelers. Let the countdown begin.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time to go for a ride with host Tessa N Thomas.
I'm such a lucky guy 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. Said the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. They touch so gentle, play so fair, mend our wounds with love and care, but they could crush us with a stare 'cause women rule the world. We are the fighters, we control, we're always right, they let it go. Behind that pretty smile, they know that women rule the world. I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you. I won't stop till I reach the top just to be there with you. With you. And I still trip over my feet. And my heart still skips a beat. I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. Yeah, the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is July 28th, Sunday, July 29th for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a rockin' week, an awesome day, and even better evening. I am your host, Tessa TNT, and I am live tonight, broadcasting from beautiful Bayfield, Colorado. We are 150,000 strong, nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find at deeptalkradio.com. Don't forget to head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the encounter online dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. So sorry, I forgot to make my mic live, but I'm glad we're back now. That hasn't happened in a while. Tonight I have a treat for all you guys and gals out there. Tonight we have the Denver Ghost Hunters. The Denver Ghost Hunters was started in 2006 as a meetup group. The founders, Elise, Stephanie, and Dawn, decided that they wanted to create a ghost hunter community to introduce and educate people new to the field and collaborate with other investigators. As it was then determined that it would be a social group for this purpose. Now, Denver Ghost Hunters is one of the leading paranormal groups in the field. Durango Ghost Hunter members travel the country, connecting with other ghost hunting groups, investigating a variety of places from haunted houses to businesses to historic locations. But Colorado is where they will always call home, as well as myself. I love it here. The group is envisioned by Elise and her best friend Stephanie, who met on an out-of-town investigation for another group they joined in 2001. Dawn was soon to join them. They continued to work together, exploring ideas and opportunities in this diverse field. Thank you, Elise and Stephanie and Dawn. So sorry about the hang-up at first.
Glad to be here tonight.
So glad to have you. And, you know, I'm so glad to showcase Colorado. I just love this state, and I've lived so many places, and Colorado is where I call home, and it is very, very active from what I've seen.
We would agree with that. It is very active. It keeps us very busy.
So can each one of you tell us, you know, me and our listeners about yourselves?
Sure. My name is Stephanie. Kind of like our intro, I started ghost hunting officially probably around 2001, and I met Elise on an out-of-town investigation where her and I got assigned to stay in the same hotel room, which was kind of fun. And so we hit it off, and we've been best friends ever since then. I got into the field because as a child I had a lot of experiences, pretend friends, things that I probably shouldn't know. And, you know, it kept my interest in the paranormal. I was actually at Tattered Cover Bookstore for anybody who's local. And I used to play a game where I would like pick up a book and kind of see what it was about and, you know, get ideas of things that I might want to explore, kind of messages from the universe kind of thing. And I picked up one on ghost photography. And lo and behold, it was offered here it was in Morrison, Colorado. I drove up there, I took the class, learned a bunch of stuff, and eventually I ended up in another ghost hunting group. That's where I met Elise. So, and I've been doing it ever since then. Thank you.
I can go next. Elise here. It's fun to be here. Yeah, and I was... ghost hunting was always something that was interesting. I was always fascinated by ghost stories. Everybody seems to have a ghost story, but I never really gave it much thought or really knew much about it. And one day I saw a ghost hunting class, and it was one of those, I was looking for something to do. I was single at the time, and trying to find a class or something to meet men, and it was either a scotch tasting class or ghost hunting class. And I thought, what's ghost hunting? That's interesting. I think I'll go. And it was at Cheeseman Park, the first class. And that very first time, someone pulled my hair. I thought it was a bug, but it was a hair tug. And I was the person that saw it happen and was like, oh, that's an old man, and blah, 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 and gave me this whole story of what he looked like. And I'm like, what? So I was kind of hooked from that time on. And then I met Stephanie shortly after, and we've been great ghost hunting buds ever since then. And then Dawn.
And then along came Dawn.
Yeah,
along came Dawn.
Along came me.
Well, tell
I
us a
had
little about
some
yourself.
Thank you. Sure. So I had some experiences as a child as well. One of my earliest memories of a paranormal experience was a hand reaching through the wall and grabbing my hair, ironically.
Oh, jeez.
Maybe those have a thing for hair. I don't know.
Yeah.
John has really nice long hair. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Definitely. And yeah, so I just always had this interest, and I read a lot. And then as I grew up, I didn't know if there were other people out there who had other experiences. And I met Stephanie and Elise through a friend, through another group, and yeah, we've been investigating ever since. This would be about 2004, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, at least.
So, when did you guys become interested in the paranormal? Stephanie?
I guess, I guess I've always sort of been really interested in it. So I think I had to have been around 5, and I begged my parents to go see Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And, like, as a kid, I was like obsessed with it, and so and they of course took me, and I remember my mom reading me ghost stories, and I just I was completely fascinated with the kind of unknown that was out there. I think that kind of also helped me explain or understand my own experiences when I would see things or hear things. And I mean, I even went through a period where I was like, is this really happening? Is this real? And maybe it's not real. And you question yourself, and then you have enough of experiences that go and validate things that you see or hear, and it becomes real. And I think one of the really cool things about those of us that do ghost hunt, it can be like one of the most boring hobbies you can possibly have, right? You're sitting in the dark, you're waiting for something to happen, and every time I'm like, why am I doing this? And then you get some great piece of evidence, and you're like, oh, I gotta go back, I gotta do this again. And so, it's one of those things that just keeps rekindling that passion.
Okay, and then next we'll go to Elise. I believe you said your interest first came as far as dating. Did you have any experiences before that?
Well, it's funny because I'm very skeptical that Stephanie and I laugh because I'm Scully and she's Mulder.
Yeah.
So I would say initially, no, I haven't had any experiences before then. But when I look back and know everything that I know now, I think about my childhood and things that happened and wonder, maybe I did. Maybe I did, and it was discounted by myself. But I was always fascinated my whole life by ghost stories. I just never believed them or thought they were real. But I loved hearing people talk about them in TV shows, movies, books, things like that. So
Nice. And Dawn, where did your interest in the paranormal start?
I think it really did start in my childhood with my experiences that I had. But I was kind of a secluded child, so I didn't really have a lot of connections and being able to talk about my experiences with anybody. So I just kept them all inside. And then when I was able to read about these things, I thought, other people are having the same experiences, and I don't feel like I'm out of place anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
I found this group that Elise and Stephanie belong to, and we've been going out ghost hunting ever since.
Yeah, that is so cool, and it's nice to find people on the same plane as you where you do feel normal and accepted and not like an outcast. So early in childhood, did you guys find any sort of rejection, judgment, or anything of the sort due to your experiences and trying to share it with others?
I remember being, I think, like in middle school, and kids were really freaked out about, like, if I had some stories or something like that. So, you learn early on to not share. and to kind of keep it under wraps because, you know, it is, you don't want to be ostracized for anything like that. You know, growing up when I was even younger, I felt like my parents were really supportive. They would, you know, ask me questions and console me or, you know, listen and validate the experience. But, yeah, definitely when I started getting into the teenage years, you know, you don't want to be different. You don't want to say, hey, I live in a haunted house, because then people are like, I'm not coming to your house. So you want to fit in. You want people to like you, and so you do. You look for people who you can trust and you can talk to about those kinds of things. Don's nodding his head in agreement.
Yeah, I thought I heard a little rattle. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, I didn't really have a network of people to reach out to, so I just kind of kept it all in. And my family, they didn't really reject me, but I didn't really tell them about a whole lot. I tell them about some stories here and there, and they just kind of chuckle and pass it off as just me just being weird.
Yeah. I feel you there. Yeah, I learned early what to share and what not to share, as I did at an early age, and got treated very harshly. And then after that, I, you know, picked and chose who I would share with, who I trusted, who I didn't. And, you know, sometimes it would work out, other times it wouldn't. And then I learned to just keep it to myself. And then in 2012 is when I decided to come out of the paranormal closet and help this mother in need. It was a friend of my daughter's, Dylan Redwine. He had moved to Colorado Springs, and then he was court-ordered against his will to go visit his dad for Thanksgiving break in 2012 and was never seen again. Yep. We all knew immediately what was going on, but we hoped for the best. But yeah, it was pretty hardcore, but it was a pretty eye-opening experience. Like, I really didn't care at that point what anyone thought. Yeah. I just wanted to help this mom in need, because here I am, this is my third child, and I'm holding him in my arms, and hoping he's safe and warm wherever he's at, and somewhat knowing that he was no longer with us. So kudos to you guys for what you're out there doing. Like, there's so many people out there that need your help, and you know, I just want to give you guys a high five on that.
Thank you.
That really was satisfying for just helping people.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, we don't get paid for this. At least we don't. So, nope. And that is the payment. You know, you get that, you know, feeling of gratitude for helping a fellow man or woman or whatnot, and yeah, it's really fulfilling. So to you guys, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and I would kind of do a shout out to the listeners that, you know, if you do have any kind of experiences or haunted house or something, and you have a group come in, you should not pay for that. There are so many groups that are willing to do that, you know, for, you know, to gather evidence and to support you, and it is not something that you should pay for.
Definitely. And, you know, if you decide to give a donation, you know, that's all good, but we will never ask for payment. I feel like if we did, like, we're taking advantage, because there's really not that much help out there in the world for things like this, and a lot of people are just now becoming open-minded to it until they experience it, and then they're like, what the crack is going on? So, for you Denver ghost hunters, what is the difference between ghost hunter and a paranormal investigator? Is there really a difference?
Well, I think one is more of a broader term and one is more specific. A paranormal investigator is probably going to look at, you know, all sorts of different types of paranormal, where it could be UFO, Bigfoot, anything that's probably, you know, in that realm of the paranormal. Whereas ghost hunters, you know, we really do specify on, we're looking at anything with ghosts, hauntings, the afterlife, that kind of thing. That's how I would classify it anyway.
Yeah, and I do agree. Paranormal covers so many things. It's not just ghosts.
Right.
So, do you only conduct investigations in Denver, or do you guys travel around the area?
We actually travel all over the country. So depending upon areas that we may get invited to help support other groups, or, even if we're on vacation and we reach out to local groups that might want to show us around and support that. So we do go all over the place. The last few years we've been at the University of Wyoming doing tours for them up there. So we do, we do love to investigate here in the Rocky Mountains and in Denver specifically, but we travel all over the place.
Yes, Four Corners Paranormal, we actually cover everywhere in this area, whether it's, New Mexico, Arizona, or Utah. And sometimes we've been asked to go up north, but we're also a part of Forest Moon Paranormal. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of them. If not, you should get a hold of them and sign up for your area. So if they have call-ins, which they do a lot, I actually had a call-in for that area not too long ago, and then it got settled. But that way you guys could be on the scope or the radar for future call-ins through Forest Moon. They have a lot going on, and they really conduct themselves very professionally.
That's great. We'll definitely reach out to them.
Nice. So, what was your first case as Denver Ghost Hunters?
That is a good question.
I kind of think...
Was it the firehouse? Or...
I was thinking more of a private home, the one with the missing
Yep.
son and daughter.
We did that. So we'll just kind of talk about a couple of different cases that I'm not entirely certain way back when, which one was our first one, but we did help with a cold case where we were working with a woman who had lost her son and her granddaughter, and we came in and she was experiencing activity in the home, and so we had done some investigations there. I think we had some EVPs and stuff that came out of there. I did a reading. We talked with the sheriff and gave them some information. So that was one of the first ones we did. But we also, we started doing investigations and tours at the Denver Firefighters Museum, which was Firehouse number 1.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and so it's a museum now, and you can go there and tour the facility, and potentially if you look on their calendar, I think they do ghost hunts there. So we did that for quite a few years until they kind of had a change in management, and so we ended up kind of parting ways at that point, but we did turn over all of our evidence to them so that future groups could use that and validate the work that we had done earlier.
That's nice, and it's good that you're, reporting it and having it recorded. And who again did you say you report that to?
So that was, we gave that all to the Denver Firefighters Museum.
Oh, nice.
It was the curator at the moment. She would have us come in and that's one of my personal favorites, and I think Stephanie and Don both agree. Helping businesses, they're a museum and a non-for-profit, so we would go in and investigate, and she could do special ghost dinners, and we would, be there and go over the evidence, and she can charge money for a spaghetti dinner to raise money for her place.
Yeah, and we volunteered to do that for them, to help them raise money.
For sure. My favorite case for our group is at the Durango-Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad. Yeah, we went in there for a preliminary investigation, so it's very early in the morning, and they're referring to this ghost as Emmy, which there is a ghost there named Emmy, but she's a little girl. But we go in there, we're using all kinds of tools, including Ghost Radar Legacy. And we put all this stuff up in the car because that's where she basically was. And then we left for a little bit, came back, did all of our investigations, and then we all go home and check out what we got. And on my phone, on the Ghost Radar, she said, Kate Johnson, Walter Intention Death, Sharp Tool, mittens, rose, snow, all kinds of other things dealing with it. We handed this over to the museum curator, and then he took it and did his homework, and he came back not even 2 weeks later. Her name is Kate Johnson. She was a prostitute from Alamosa, Colorado. The firefighter and her fell in love. She was a soiled dove, aka prostitute, back in the day. And they had met through her work, as well as her and the brakeman. Well, he snuck her on the train to elope. The brakeman found them together, became jealous because he was very in love with her as well. And a fight ensued. The brakeman stabbed the firefighter to death. And Kate lived through this. She tried to move on with her life, but she couldn't. She felt guilty because had she not been there, this would have never happened. And so she killed herself. She ingested, I believe it was muriatic acid. And, yeah, what a horrible way to go. There's so many other ways you could go. Totally. But she decided on that path. And then, being that she was raised Catholic, her belief was if she killed herself, she'd be stuck in purgatory. So she was, and it was on this, immigrant car that the whole fight and everything happened on. And you go up the stairs and you feel this feeling of anxiety, panic. You go in, you feel this feeling of claustrophobia. You go back further and it's anxiety again and fear. Your stomach feels sick. You go back further and you feel this heat on your face, like a literal heat from an oven. Well, the museum curator told this Catholic school class the whole story. He was going to keep it PG, but he told them everything. And they came in and he's like, all right, well, let's go off. And you know, when you're on a train car, it goes back and forth kind of when you're walking on it. So he felt like the class was following him, and he got down the stairs and he realized they weren't there. And then he heard this prayer, and he said it made the hair on the back of his neck raise up. And he was raised Catholic as well, but he had never heard it, but he said it was so beautiful. And then they came off and he's like, oh, you know, I kind of recognize it, but I don't. Like, that was so beautiful. What prayer was that? And they said it was a prayer of release from purgatory. And then about a week later, I go in there just to check on things. And he's like, I had this Catholic school class, you know, everything I just told you. And will you go back there and see if you still feel her back there? And I went on there and it was so empty and quiet and desolate. And I came back out and I was like, she's not there anymore. And he told me what had happened. And so she had found a release. But then about 3 months later, she came back for Emmy, who I said before was a child ghost. The brakeman's there as well. We have a picture of him on our website. And every time we had tried to go to talk to her to find out how to get her out of there, he'd come in and cuss and be vulgar and everything. But yeah, it's amazing. And that was my favorite and basically one of our first ones after the Dylan Redwine case. It's pretty epic how that happens, how you find that story and you find closure for her and, you know, some sort of goodness for yourself. It's pretty awesome.
It is great. You said that you went in and then you guys left and then came back. Is that like just so that are you leaving like recorders or anything just going and you don't want to disrupt the area, or what's your thought process behind that?
We went on there and it was very quiet at first. We got a couple pings here and there. And then we decided to go talk to the curator and kind of snoop about the place. There was a cinema car next door, which is actually where the brakeman likes to hang out the most. But when anybody comes over to the immigrant car, which is in the back and all chained off because the curator is very protective of it, then he'll swoop over there and cause all kinds of drama and stuff. But we were just scoping out a couple other things because it was very quiet at first. But as soon as we left, like, I swear I heard something going on, but I'm like, we're going over here, and as soon as we get back, we have this whole list of words, which I have stored on my email, thank goodness, because I lost the paper version of it. But yeah, it's pretty epic how that happens and how you can find a story, and that to me is the, you know, the catalyst and stuff, trying to find that story and help those in this realm and the next.
Yeah, that's when you get excited and you're like, I gotta go do this again.
Mm-hmm. So, did your guys' parents believe in your gift or listen to you when you would share your paranormal stuff with them?
Yeah, actually, my mom was always really open to things. She wanted us to figure out things on our own. So if I always had some sort of theory or experience or something like that, she'd be like, well, what do you think? And she would just be really open to it. I suspect that my mom has experiences as well, but she doesn't necessarily share them with me, where I will tell her things a lot more often than she does. You know, so I did have a pretend friend when I was little, and her name was Myrtle, and I apparently told my mom and dad how she passed away and what she was doing, and anyway, so kind of one of those interesting, I guess my parents were very open to it, and that, which was good, because, you know, it's scary. You don't want to get shut down when you're really little.
Yeah, for sure.
John, you said no? You did not talk to your parents?
I didn't really. Oh, I was raised by my grandparents, and they didn't really. I think they believed in it to some degree, and I think that they probably also, like your parents, had some sort of experiences here and there, but they were really old school, and they didn't really talk about that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
And Lisa, yours was like
yeah. Yeah. I didn't
same.
really have any when I was a kid, but I know my parents would have been open to it, because my great-great-grandmother actually wrote a book about ghosts that haunted their house back in the day, and my whole family has always talked about that. But so I know they would have been fine if I had
experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you guys investigate cryptozoology as well as UFOs?
Well, I used to make jokes that before I got married, that I wanted to go hang out with some like Bigfoot hunters, because I thought they might be cute. But
yeah.
So that's kind of where I was at for that one. But you know, I always think that there's and I don't know, I think I always manage to make some sort of chupacabra joke every time we're out in the middle of nowhere. But no, not really something that we study as a group.
We do joke about it when ghost hunting gets really boring and nothing happens and you're not getting evidence and not able to get it to any stories or conclusions.
Right.
Bigfoot's next.
Yeah. So I think one of our funniest experiences with that was we were doing an investigation for the Sand Creek Massacre, and so we were out in the middle of nowhere, and we're prepping and getting ready, and the owners who owned the ranch asked us if we did that, and they had experiences with cattle mutilations, and you realize how isolated out there it is. Like, there's just no one out there for miles and miles. And but I did tell her, I said, no, ma'am, we only do ghosts. We don't do UFOs or cattle mutilations.
Well, I'm looking back here. I believe we have a question from Shar. Let me look in my pics. Generally, I stored in there, but I didn't. And I believe there was one about the Denver airport. What do you guys know about that, like the underground base, etc.?
Wow. Well,
the artwork there is crazy at the airport.
My dad actually used to work there, and he did confirm, like, there's a lot of tunnels, but his experience with, like, the extent of some of those tunnels are pretty limited. That he was an electrician there, so he was doing a lot of the wiring and things for the airport. If people are having any kind of paranormal experiences there, it wouldn't surprise me. I definitely feel like it's a pretty heavy piece of land, and a lot of energy coming from a lot of travelers. So, but ultimately, I mean, I don't know of anything except for like the crazy stuff I've seen on TV shows.
Like conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been through there when I went to the military, etc. And I think that wing that everybody talks about is kind of off to the side somewhere. I didn't get to see all that artwork or experience it. I might not have just noticed it because I was in such a hurry, but I've seen pictures of it online, and it is very interesting and kind of scary.
Yeah, I'm always on a mission to find a Starbucks there. That's and get to my plane. So
yeah, mine back in the day was I got to find the smoke room before I get stuck on this plane.
Exactly.
Isn't there rumors that it was on Native American burial site too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which wouldn't surprise me. Like there's a lot out there.
Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think especially that one creepy wing is on that area. But I have heard something about that, and I'm not sure what sort of native that it is that the burial ground would be. There's Utes of different descent, and then there's Dene, a.k.a. Navajo, that the Utes named. Navajo means thief. So they go by Dene because they don't appreciate that. It's pretty downgrading for them, but... So, what was the most haunted location you guys have investigated?
That is a tough one. One of them that I think of as one of the most haunted locations was the High Street Speakeasy in downtown Denver. And I actually don't know what it is now. It's changed hands quite a few times. We just had some really crazy experiences. It used to be a flop house, and when we got there, it was a bar on the first floor, and then they were doing construction on the second floor, and so it had no electricity upstairs, and it was very dark. We had to use flashlights when we went upstairs. A lot of men experienced, I think that they didn't, the ladies that were left there did not appreciate the men that came in. So a lot of men would have experiences and feel dizzy. And we had quite a few guys that almost fell down the stairs. I was taking a group up there through an investigation, and all of our we had sights because there's no lights up there, and all of our bulbs and our flashlights burst at the same time. We had to, because there was a lot of construction up there, it wasn't safe to just stumble around in the dark. So we had to ask for help, and so we screamed for help to somebody come get us, and sure enough, all of our flashlights were broken. One of the other experiences that we had was there was a bathroom, and the bathroom door didn't have an actual handle. It was just an open hole because they were, again, doing the construction. And when we were up there, they couldn't get the door to open. It felt like somebody was like standing against the door. And so everybody kept pushing and pushing, and somebody was going to get a knife to kind of pry it open. And so I told everybody to stop, and we knocked on the door, and I said, "Can we come in?" And the door just opened up on its own. But we had things where we found old newspapers, and we have an EVP where I think we were asking what year it was, and it says 1925, and sure enough, that's what the newspapers were. So it showed up on the EVP along with the newspapers. And then we also had one room where it looked like there had been blood on the wall, and somebody had wiped it down. And we have an EVP saying, "I scrubbed it." So just really interesting experiences there. It just had this really buzzy nature. It was extremely active. The bartenders constantly complained that they would see people there. They would have the liquor bottles moved or tipped over, and so they were pretty stressed out when we were there because they were having so much activity. So that was one that I would say was pretty high. Which ones would you guys say?
I would think of the Casper Ivy House for some reason. And
because you had a lot of experiences there.
Yeah, and it's probably because we just came down from the Stanley Hotel the night before and asked for the non-haunted room there.
Because we were a little tired. We wanted some sleep.
And we ended up with the most haunted room, apparently.
But yeah, so one of the things that we were doing there, well, we should preface this conversation. So we're staying at a bed and breakfast, and they have this great dog, and Elise loves this big
black lab.
Big black lab. She loves her labs. And anyway, we're setting up equipment in our room,
our non-haunted room,
room, and we're in the basement, and we hear a jingling on the door, like somebody's trying to open it, and then we hear the sniffing noise, and that's when...
Yeah, it was like the door was moving back and forth in the door jamb, like someone was pushing up against it back and forth, and then you could hear, I don't know if you have a dog or people out there who have dogs, when a door's shut and they want to be with you, they sniff underneath the door really heavily and try to suck in your essence, whatever they're doing to get to the other side of the door.
Yeah.
And that's what we heard. You know, and we thought it was the black lab coming to visit. Then we're all excited he was going to spend the night with us in our room. Open up the door, and there's nothing there.
And remember, Elise is a skeptic, right? So she runs out of the room because she's convinced that dog is down there. And she is looking for the dog all over the basement. Finally, we go upstairs, and the dog's been with the owner the whole time.
Up on the third floor. It's like 3 floors up.
Yep. So that's when... we knew we were going to have kind of an interesting night with some of our experiences.
Yeah, and I think one of the funnest parts of that one, the next morning at breakfast, the owners were telling us a story. The owner who used to own that and ran it as a house, for a boarding house, she was really strict and had really strict rules. The people that stayed there had to be in by 10. There were absolutely no visitors and no smoking. And she was known to go up and sneak up and fly a door open to see if they were smoking or had visitors.
And she'd sniff and smell.
Yeah.
So here two, giggly girls, and so she was trying to catch us, I'm pretty sure. But again, it's one of those experiences where the story got validated by the experience that we had. Yeah.
We, of course, didn't have the video camera on at the time. We were setting it up, getting ready to put it on.
Yep. That's how that always happens.
You probably have some experiences like that, too.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of hotels around here that are notoriously haunted have human resources that claims that they are not. They won't say anything about it being haunted. That is totally fictitious, and they won't even allow us to do a tour around there. And we're like, okay, well, if you go and talk to housekeeping, they tell a totally different story. But we won't tattle on them because we want them to be able to keep their jobs. But
Right.
They don't realize these days what kind of notoriety and how many people want to stay in a place like that. There are people that are closed-minded that are like, heck no, I don't want to stay there. But those who do, that is a big economy right now. It's a really big business boom, and if they would take advantage of that, that would be awesome. But they're not in the net. They're not in the now, so we'll just wait for them to catch up.
Don, what do you think? What was one of your most haunted places that you feel like?
I like really going out to Lafayette Cemetery. I feel like almost every time I go there, I'm going to capture something at that cemetery. And not just evidence. I've had personal experiences with seeing shadow people Being followed, I just know I've been followed several times in that cemetery. A lot of EVPs. So I really like that location.
That's a good one, too.
Have you guys ever had anything come home with you?
Elise always has something come home with her.
Yeah. the skeptical one always.
They always mess with her. What was the last one? Like, well, you had the garage door.
Oh, yeah. Just a couple weeks ago, we came home, and I opened the garage door from the wall, went to get into my car to go to work, and then the garage door started shutting, and it had a momentary freak out thinking someone was in the garage shutting the door on me. Looked, no one was there, so I went to walk over and open it, and it opened up again by itself, and then went to get back in my car, and it shut again. And there was something else that happened. I don't remember.
Was it like your toaster or something? Or what was that? There was another...
Something electronic. They always... And it's funny because I called my husband and said, I think, something followed me home. And he's like, again? Are you sure the door's shut now that you're going to work?
Yeah.
I often... after an investigation, I often have really vivid dreams that will kind of bridge some things together. So I kind of feel like they come visit my dreams afterwards.
Yeah, that too.
But we've had it where there was one where we were was that Daniels Park, and we could smell like smoke or something in the back. No, it was like BO or it was some sort of smell, remember, that just ended up in the car. And I think that's at that point we were like,
yeah,
you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here kind of situation.
Yeah, I think that was Daniels Park.
Yeah.
And that's happened on the way home from Central City, too.
Yeah. You get the hitchhiker in the car.
Mm-hmm.
You actually picked up a hitchhiker after ghost hunting?
No. I mean, like, the ghost was hitchhiking.
The paranormal variety.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that takes a lot of gonads.
Actually, I think I had a ghost follow me home from Lafayette Cemetery, ironically. And it actually stuck around for a couple of years. Like, it just didn't want to leave. It would like rummage through bags. I'd go shopping, come home and set down my bags, and I'd hear somebody rustling through them, and I'd look at the bags, and they'd actually be moving.
Mm.
I've had stuff move in my bathroom. I think that lately it's kind of definitely evaporated more, but
yeah,
every once in a while something will happen.
So do you guys use any sort of protective prayers or any protective rituals before you go into a hunt and afterwards?
Not usually before, but a lot of times we'll end a hunt and we'll say, thank you. We'll thank them and let them know that they can't come with us. But sometimes we get lazy. We don't always do that anymore. So I mean, I guess it depends upon the site of how we go about and treat that site. But usually once they're already here, then we just invite them to leave.
How about you guys? Do you when you go out?
It's been a learning process for me as far as what to do and what not to do, and I've actually had something follow me home a couple times. Once after the Dylan Redwine case, we went down, contacted him. He said hello a few times through our radio that we were using. I believe it was an SP11. And the third time he sounded like really surprised that we could hear him. And we were down by the house a couple times, once at the beginning, once at the end, and parked down the road, and you could hear things crackling in the aspens and stuff. And then we walked down towards the house, and Kat and Glow were like, come on, let's go. And me and Sadie were on the other side of the cattle guard, and we're like, we can't, there's something in the house. And you could see something in the windows. It appeared as if, even though nobody was there, it appeared as if the TV was on and just flipping through channels, and something was running really quickly in front of the windows back and forth. And to me, it appeared as Anubis. At the time, I didn't know about the jackal. Someone later on told me that's the jackal because it was like Anubis, but the ears weren't as pronounced and it was a bit smaller. And I drove home that night having the heebie-jeebies, as my son would call it, and I get home. My roommate was down the lane because he was dating my neighbor at the time, and he came home and asked me how my hunt went and everything, and I told him about what we had seen, and he was like, I don't want to freak you out right now, but there was this black dog thing chasing your truck down the driveway. He didn't get me, he didn't scratch me, nothing happened after that, but it really freaked me out for a while that he had chased my truck. I was in a Black Dakota at the time. Another case we went to in Bloomfield, New Mexico, it was a demonic case, scratching people, ripping the husband off the couch, etc. We found a porthole. When I was sitting there talking to them, I felt like I was sitting in front of an oven, like it was right behind me and like burning the side of my face and my back and everything, and my coworker as well. And we found this portal kind of by the bedroom in the laundry room, and we had sprayed some holy water and sage and all kinds of stuff. It's kind of different out here than other places. It's more native, so we tend to lean on the sage more than other people would, being that we are in native lands, and most likely that's what it is. But shortly after that, it was that night I came home. I'm looking through my emails. Well, at first I went out to smoke. My daughter wanted to go with me for some reason, and I heard this growling noise out in the driveway, and I look over there like, what the heck is that? And then I look down at my 2-year-old daughter, and she's looking in the same direction. I was like, did you see that? Or did you hear that? And she said, yeah, but that's just Hercules. And I was like, no, Hercules is in the backyard. Let's go inside. I don't want to be out here anymore. 2 emails into my email list, I feel this burning on my side, and I'm like, what the heck is that? I thought maybe a spider or something from the porch had gotten up under my shirt. Then I looked, and there was 2 scratches along my pant line. So I got holy water for this case, I sprayed it on there shortly after it disappeared. 2 days later, it happened again. This time it was in 3s, and I sprayed it on there. It actually took quite a bit longer to get rid of it, but I saged the house. I almost smoked my husband out. He's like, I almost can't stand it. I'm like, you better stay in here, because if you open my door right now, I'm going to be really irritated. I'm trying to penetrate every nook and cranny and crevice of this place. And then I open a window. I don't do it the same as other people. I want to make sure it penetrates everything. And if they want to leave through some other exit, they can, but otherwise they can leave when I tell them to. But yeah, it didn't come back anymore after that. Another one I didn't take seriously was this saging I did right up the lane. It's not even a mile away from me. It's right in the backyard of this Catholic church, which I didn't pay attention to until later. And so I'm saging. I'm showing the girl how to do it, how to use your intent. This is your house. You got to put your foot down. Tell them to leave. Only love and light can stay here. All negative energy must leave. I was compromised at the point that I didn't get enough sleep the night before. I didn't say my prayer, my St. Michael prayer I always say before I go in. And I didn't sage myself afterwards because I'm in all this sage smoke, so I'm just not even thinking about it. Later that night, I always carry tourmaline in my pocket. I took off my pants, put on my pajamas. About 30 minutes later, Tessa was gone and something else was there, and I wake up about 3 hours later behind the wheel of my car, and I'm like, where the heck am I going? I need to go back home. I turn around and go back home. Everybody's locked in the master bedroom, so I just lay down on the love seat, go to sleep watching TV. The next day, my husband comes out, are you okay? Literally, like, legitimately worried about me. He's not angry. He's just worried, like, am I okay? And I was, and, he told me what exactly had happened, and then I saw the evidence of it, and it really freaked me out. So, no longer will I go compromised on a case. I'll let the crew go without me before I put anybody in harm's way, including myself. But that was the most drastic, the last one, and that was not too long ago.
Well, I think So Elise is kind of a skeptic, but we have, I guess, we'll get some messages sometimes with certain cases. So if we're looking at taking on a case, Elise will have a dream about her old dog, and it's kind of been fortuitous for us where if she has one of these dreams, we decide that maybe we want to back off from that case and we don't want to take it. We typically stay with really, I guess I should say, like, if we've gotten calls where people say, oh, I have a demon, and a lot of times we will refer them to groups that may have priests and more of like a specific religious tone to that group that might be able to help them better. For me, doing any kind of like readings, they're not necessarily going to be open to that, and so we want to make sure that the client is supported as well. So a lot of times, we will refer people to other groups depending upon what their needs are. But one of the things I always find really interesting is, somebody might feel like, oh, my haunting is evil, where if you're doing a reading or you're collecting evidence, a lot of times the ghost or spirit might be very frustrated, right? They're not evil. They're just trying to get your attention. They're trying to do this. And so, those terms, I try and be very cautious on how we frame things, especially with specific cases.
Yeah, very much so. And on that note, we need to go to our first break. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Denver Ghost Hunters after these messages.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th.
Okay, so we have 7 minutes and 10 seconds if you guys need to use the restroom or get refreshments or whatnot.
Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron.
Thanks so much for coming on, you guys. I'm pretty stoked.
Mike Morin, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian.
We went in there and talked to human resources, but we didn't really get anything until, like I said, we talked to housekeeping. I was doing human resources, and I'm like, go over there and talk to that housekeeper really quick because they know everything. So as I'm talking to human resources, and she's telling me
free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
There's news, and there's The Encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out, and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here comes the second hour of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa N Thomas. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. And you can follow Tessa on Twitter at Tessa TNT. Now, back to the show.
Hey guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Tonight we have the Denver Ghost Hunters on. Welcome back, Stephanie, Elise, and Dawn. I'm so grateful to have you guys on. Welcome back.
You're here.
Thank you.
So, many think it is unethical to charge for investigations. Do you charge, and what is your opinion on this subject?
We do not charge for an investigation. We do charge for presentations, tours, things where we're doing a kind of a performance type of situation. But if we're doing any sort of investigation, we do not charge.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we actually started a tour here it was called the Haunted History Tour. And then this guy not too long after, about 2 months later, came in, calling it the very same thing. So we put a stop to that, but that's the only thing we've charged for, as well as cleansing kits. But yeah, we don't charge. We feel like we're doing a service, and if you want to donate, that's cool. But otherwise, we're just doing what we're doing, collecting evidence, etc. So what is... go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you've got to pay for your website fees and your equipment fees and all sorts of fun stuff. So, we do the side gigs from time to time for that.
Yeah, I've often said, we don't get rich doing this. We actually go broke, so...
Yep.
So what is the first thing you pack when you're going or heading out on an investigation?
Well, ironically, I always forget a flashlight.
So that's the first thing you don't pack.
Yeah, it's the one thing where I'm always like, really? I actually have like a little go-to backpack that always has my equipment in it all the time, and so I don't repack my equipment very often because it's always in there. But I do a lot of the video and camera work a lot of times, so mine is filled with that. And then my other go-to piece of equipment is my dowsing rods. I really love my dowsing rods.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love those too. And that was actually my first tool that I had for this group was dowsing rods, and I find it to be very accurate, and I'm still trying to figure out, is it the spirit or is it just internal ticks? What are your thoughts on dowsing rods?
Well, when I teach a lot of classes, I bring out the dowsing rods, and I have people new to ghost hunting who've never even picked up anything, and it's always really interesting that the dowsing rods work with some people and don't work with other people. And so a lot of times I feel like your rods are sort of an extension of you, and they have you get this, like, they're your energy, they're yours. And, but definitely the funny part is, like, if I'm asking questions with them, a lot of times, like, the answers sort of pop up into my head way before, the rods just kind of confirm it. Like, if it's like a yes or a no, it's like, so I just feel like they kind of are this, like, antenna, or it's just channeling kind of what we're already doing. So I think people who are really good at the rods kind of have that intuition already. That's one of the reasons I think they're really, an extension of them. Sorry if you hear a cat in the background.
Yeah, I have a psycho kitty too. I have her 2 doors down. She's locked out of the main room and the office. And last night she was yelling so bad, I'm like, go away, psycho kitty. I can't pet you right now. So, do you guys carry holy water in your pack?
We do not. I guess that kind of also goes down to, some of my own belief systems. I'm not really religious, and so I guess it's not really a tool that I bring in with me. I do have a sage and a cleansing kit that I've done from time to time. We've done some clearings for some people. The thing with the clearing is that I am a big believer that if it's your home, you should do the clearing. It's far more powerful in that aspect. And for some locations, it's kind of like cleaning your house, right? Like, it's clean right after you do the clearing, and then it starts to get dirty and filled with a lot of energy again. You have to do it again. So it's not one of those, like, one and done type of activities. And I don't bring it with me that often. It's really at the request of the client, or, again, just if I happen to think that it might be beneficial.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. It's not a one and done sort of thing, and it is exactly like house cleaning. You have to do it periodically, and the more you do it, the more it breaks up. And it has been scientifically proven to take negative ions and turn them positive. And so I do have a lot of faith in saging. Also, like you were saying, using crystals. There are certain coins different people can use. It all really depends on the entity you're dealing with as well as the person in the house. And the most powerful person to do it is the owner of the house or the renter, whoever is head of household at the time. And so when we go in and show them how to do it, you know, you have to put out that intent. You're the person who runs this place. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to say. And you need to stand firm and be affirmative and have faith in yourself that you are more powerful than this entity that's here, because you really are. They just want you to believe otherwise.
Right. Well, and that actually makes me wonder, too, when you're talking about ions. Like, I have one of those Himalayan salt crystals. I wonder if that has, you know, I've actually never used it for anything like that. I just like to play Indiana Jones and think that I'm, you know, carrying it around and lit up. But, you know, it kind of makes you wonder, like, you know, different types of tools that people might use that are not the traditional sage or holy water. Would love to know if people, we'll have to maybe put a poll on the website or something to see what other things people might use. It's interesting.
Yeah, I do believe that belief and faith are very powerful in this field. You know, whatever you believe, whatever you have faith in will work. If you just have a half a thing going on and you don't really believe in it, it's not going to really work for you. But as Denver ghost hunters, what is your procedure for paranormal investigations from start to finish?
Wow, that is like a really big loaded question. So let me see if I can get all of the steps in. So typically we will get a case, whether that's like a phone call or an email or post, that kind of thing, of them reaching out to us. Then we often have an investigator who will reach out and chat with them about the situation. We may even have them go and kind of do an initial interview and scope the property, the area out during the daylight. And just kind of do an initial, you know, and the part of that is, you know, safety, making sure that the area is safe, and if there are areas of concern, physical safety wise, like, oh, hey, there's a big hill right here. We need to make sure that we're, you know, in the dark, not missing that kind of thing. We may have another investigator that might do some research on the history, or that might take place afterwards. Just kind of depends upon what the workload is, what we're doing. And then when we arrive at the site, we have kind of a team powwow. We will go over guidelines, who's doing what, especially if we have a lot of people doing any kind of infrared work. One of the things that we find is that we call it don't cross the streams, because if you do cross infrared over infrared, you get really interesting anomalies, and people are like, oh, it's a ghost. It's not. It's just the wavelength of the light. So, you know, we're really conscious of that. And, you know, and part of that we'll have somebody from the team, you know, interview and sit with the client. But we're also looking at, you know, security cameras. A lot of places have security cameras. They're on infrared. So again, we have to be aware of those kinds of things in the field, especially when we're setting up. We will do some ambient readings for like temperature, moisture. We take account into that. People who are doing EVP work will kind of do a voice check off. So we check to make sure who's where in the room, remind everybody kind of the EVP rules. We may have, depending upon, the site and the client, we may have people fill out some of our paperwork that kind of goes on to those experiences. And then we usually come together at the end to wrap up and then kind of talk to the client about next steps, if we're going to come back, or, you know, if we have some findings and what they are, you know, I guess that's kind of an initial thing, is like what they're hoping to get from the investigation. And then we go our separate ways, go through investigation piece, all the evidence. Typically, one of the things we also do is we take multiple photographs of an area, because we've had anomalies where we've looked at other people's photographs and realized, hey, that's a reflection, that's this. So, so if we do have evidence, then usually it's coming back as a group and really trying to debunk ourselves is kind of a big thing for us. And then for our EVPs, we really don't like to do, we don't publish anything that's been really edited. So we don't put filters on things. We don't take out background. We keep it really as pure as possible. And if we can't do that, then typically we don't publish those kinds of pieces of evidence. So anyway, that's kind of, would you guys have anything to add or?
No, I think that we definitely spend a lot of time debunking and sharing things before we ever put it out there.
Yeah.
We all listen to it, and a lot of times we will, oh yeah, that sounds more like this versus that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very detailed breakdown of everything that we cover.
Well, that's pretty good, and you guys seem like you have it pretty covered. So, do you guys use a psychic medium on your paranormal investigations at all?
Yeah, that's me on the team. We have used we've worked with other psychics. The really great thing is if we can do separate readings and then have somebody, compare them, that's always really cool. But I'm not always in that role. So, it depends upon the client and what they're looking for. So sometimes I go in and I do a reading, and sometimes, I'm just doing film or camera work.
Yeah, I find myself in that role a lot. I like to do the live feeds as well as videoing. From the age of 13, I was a videographer with my dad, and so I have all kinds of old school night vision cameras and other big lunky cameras. But the cell phone is awesome these days. You can just take that, go Facebook Live, and refer to that later. Hopefully it doesn't break up, because sometimes it does in certain locations. So how important is the equipment and technology on your paranormal investigation?
I would say it's one of the main focuses of what we do. There are times where we'll just be ghost hunting and we may not break out equipment. We just go for the experience of being in that area and kind of going for what was our psychological experience with things. But most of the time, we do bring out the tools, because that's how you get validation.
Yeah. And we do various things. I think, for Don and I both, we love the EVP and the recorder. And we've got some other things like a radio. It's kind of like Frank's box, but it's a Radio Shack hack, where it just plays random radio, and a lot of different types of things will break out at different times, depending on what we feel when we get there that we may want to do or use.
Yeah, I'll kind of let the location dictate what we're going to use that night. Like Elise said, our EVP recorders are pretty much our go-to, and if I feel like I can get some good, strong video evidence, I'll get my night vision Sony.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. As far as every location is different. Not one thing that works over here is going to work for another. They're very unique and diverse, as they are individuals. We are on this side, they are on the other. What you are over here, I feel like you're going to be over there. You're not just going to change to be a good person or a bad person all of a sudden. But as far as your investigations, do you guys guarantee that you can solve most paranormal problems?
Wow, that's a big promise.
Yeah.
I would say no. We typically talk about what things we can do. We can counsel you on how to live with your, afterlife roommates that you might have. We also will talk about, the type of evidence, that we might be able to produce some evidence. We don't promise that we will even get evidence, because there are places that we just don't. Doesn't mean that there's not something there. It just means that we didn't catch anything on what we were doing. So we're very, you can't really make a whole lot of promises. You do try and help people learn to live with that other side, because things are everywhere, but...
Well, and sometimes it's completely out of our hands and it's in their hands. I can think of a couple cases where the homeowners were so afraid and they wanted help, but they weren't willing to put the work in, or they knew, they were so fascinated by it they couldn't let go and clear it themselves. Or
we had a couple of clients who wanted to investigate their own house, so they kept stirring things up every single time. And so, part of that was having that discussion with, you are opening yourself up to this, and so, you need to make some decisions. Do you want to keep having those experiences and keep investigating, or do you want to let that go and let things calm down?
Yeah, and it is hard to let it go when you do live somewhere. Should we set this up and get some EVPs, or should we try this and see if there's activity over here because I really feel it, or whatever. And it does tend to kick them up because they're like, hey, someone's paying attention or someone's listening. I think it's finding that internal message and fixing the problem itself is what's important, and it can be really difficult depending on what and who the spirit is and if they are willing to communicate. Sometimes it takes a little time for them to trust you and to share that information, and sometimes it's just like right off the bat. It's hard to tell what's going to happen from here to there. Like I said before, every case is different. So, speaking of cases, what is the strangest case you've dealt with?
The strangest case? Which one?
I don't know.
I had fielded an email that you had sent out, and I was available, so I went out to those guys' apartment locally, and they were trying to convince me that their apartment was haunted, and it turns out they were just trying to hoax me. So that was unfortunate, but at least I was able to realize that pretty early on and call it a day. But that was strange that they were trying to pull something over on me. I thought that was just really strange.
Mm-hmm. Another case that we had, which was kind of interesting, was we were brought into a private homeowner, and the owner had committed suicide, and so we really expected to see, get male voices on the EVP or on film, and we did not. We got a woman, and no woman had died in the house. So we were. So sometimes you have these weird things where, you think you're going into something because of a certain scenario or story or whatever, and then totally changes gears, and that's not the evidence that you get.
That reminds me of one that I went on that you didn't make it
on.
Oh,
that's right. Yeah, I was moving.
Yeah, it was in a really ritzy neighborhood in the Denver area, and they were afraid to be there, so we had to investigate when they were on vacation. And their brother-in-law and sister were there with us, and it was a long night and not much was coming through, but we had a remote viewer that was coming through on the phone and helping us with it. And a long story short, suddenly something clicked. Who are we talking to? Are the homeowner's parents alive, or are they dead? And it turned out the whole room went silent at that point, and the homeowner's parents were actually both had passed away from a murder-suicide, about 40 years ago. And that was who came to the conclusion that was there. And it wasn't the house where it happened or anything. It was just the homeowner happened to live there. But it's quite a twist. So to go to, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
Or why you're there, what's going to come out.
Well, and, and one of the things, if we have a lot of, I typically work with the same people. We investigate together over and over again. So I learned to kind of phase out their energy and the ghosts that they bring with them. And so it's always interesting that if you get new people, you have to you have to, look at, what are we bringing with us as well to an investigation. And so we were doing one house that we'd done many times, and we were teaching a class there, and there, I had a couple there, and both of their parents were deceased as well, and that's who kept coming up on a lot of our EVPs on my reading, and so I ended up having to give them some messages so that their family members would be quiet and let us investigate the actual house that we were going to investigate. So, it's one of those of, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, that is so true. You never do know until you go and collect the evidence. Sometimes it can be really surprising. But that's funny you were saying, they're just telling them to be quiet so we can get our information. So, are some people more perceptive to paranormal activity than others?
Yeah, I think there are some people who are really always looking for it, and they want to go, stay at a haunted hotel and have the experience, and, so I think they are, and if you're open to it, you probably will have experiences. And then there are people who are really shut off, and they don't want to believe in it, and they don't want to do that. They may still have experiences, but a lot of times they'll kind of shrug them off and think that, come up with some sort of explanation for the experience. So I think anyone can have an experience, but definitely attitude plays, I think, a huge role in how we perceive our environment and the experience. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I think that's well put.
Well, so what do you do to communicate with spirits exactly?
Well, we do EVP, so we have, we can ask questions. A lot of times with EVP, we may just, at least you want to talk about that a little bit?
I think the biggest thing we do a little differently in our group is, and sometimes we do it, but the question and answer thing is kind of hard and boring to me. So we like to just come in with some big energy and, interest and fun, and talk amongst ourselves, crack jokes, talk about things. I find that we get a lot more that way. Mm-hmm. You'll hear people correcting you, telling you you're wrong, swearing at you. I prefer that way and for my communication, at least.
I agree. I like that approach myself. It keeps things interesting. You're not losing interest in what you're doing. It's, it's not so scripted. It's more natural.
Yeah.
And you never know what you're going to get. It's just somebody just chiming in, just trying to join in on the conversation.
We use dowsing rods. Obviously, we use psychics as well.
And I think one of the biggest things is, as three friends, we have a great time, and we go in there knowing we just have an energy that can bring it out, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, because sometimes someone, most of the times a lot of other people will go and it's just as fun, but sometimes someone will come along and nothing will happen, just based on the energy that you're bringing to the place. But, sorry, I just wanted to add that in.
No,
yeah.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's much better to bring a positive approach and, some positive energy as opposed to provoking, the way a lot of people do. And I don't like that. I don't like to use that approach. I don't like provoking ghosts. I like to use whatever respect I can, thinking of this person as a human being because they were.
Right.
They may just be on the other side. That doesn't make them any less respectful. And so when people do that, it really does frustrate me and irritate me. But I really like that you guys do that. Kudos to you for using that positive perspective instead of the negative, which it does get, positive effects if you're trying to gather information, but at the same time, like, it's not a good way to leave a ghost in somebody's house or somebody's business or, you know, place of living. I mean, it can be very detrimental. So can you dispel the notion that all spirits are evil? Because there are people out there, especially in the Bible Belt area, these aren't ghosts, they're all demons. And, you know, in the Bible it even says, Jesus said, I am just a ghost, do not fear me. I am Jesus. Like, he's not a demon, he came back in the spirit realm. Can you dispel the notion of them all being demons or negative spirits?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is I've really, I've never met a demon. I'll just put it out that way. Met a lot of dead people and ghosts and things like that. But, you know, one of the things, like, I have a 1-year-old right now, and he gets really frustrated because he can't communicate very, you know, that he's struggling with talking. And I kind of feel like that's how a lot of ghosts do, right? They're trying to tell you, or they're trying to you know, exist, or, you know, they want that attention. And so I find that a lot of people who get scared, it's their reaction to something that they may not understand the context of. So, you know, you might have a ghost that doesn't like where you have a vase of flowers, and so they knock it off all the time. Well, they're trying to tell you something. You know, they might want it in another location, and, you know, they're there too. They occupy the same space as well. I've had experiences with some things that are maybe not human, but again, I wouldn't go to the extent of saying that they're evil. I just think that a lot of that negative or those dark connotations, I feel like those are self-created, and they're self-created prophecies in some ways. Because if you really try and do the reading and do the evidence, it's you learn a lot. You know, they're just kind of like your story of the soiled dove, and she felt anxious to be there because she didn't want anything to be happening to other people, and so that energy, it's kind of laid down, and you know, so we don't necessarily focus on all the positive places, but, you know, a lot of ghosts happen to show up at bars and theaters and all sorts of places that they had a lot of fun too. So those are things that, you know, that they were people, and, you know, I don't think that anybody is just evil or anybody is just good. We all have different shades, and so do they.
So what can you tell people who are afraid of the supernatural?
What do we tell people?
Sometimes, like at my job, somebody might find out through the grapevine that I'm a ghost hunter, and then they'll come to me with all kinds of questions. And, oh, there's this rattling behind my dryer. Can you come check it out? And I'm afraid. And I do my best to try and tell them that, you know, ghosts were just people at one time as well, and they shouldn't be afraid. And it may even be a family member, so that should be comforting to them.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of it is just trying to understand and you know, look at I'm always trying to get people to, like, what is the behavior of the ghost, because there's probably some sort of purpose, or, you know, they were doing it. Chances are, like, I find that a huge percentage of hauntings are residual, and so it has nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. It's just them going over the same thing that they did before. So, you know, I think if you look at it in a different way, it's not so scary.
And don't you think, I think sometimes when people are afraid, they just don't understand, they don't have any experience with it.
Yeah. Or they feel out of control.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we'll talk to them about, is how do you control, this is your house. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they might be your dead roommate, but they're, you can tell them, and, you know, if you've got children ghosts, you'd be like, go to bed, it's time for bed. And we try and, you know, coach them on how to kind of take back their own, and control their own environment.
Yeah, I try to explain it to my kids, like, we're all going to be ghosts someday, so would you want somebody to be afraid of you? Consider that when you're looking at a ghost. And I know seeing them as a child myself, you do get that rush of adrenaline and you get freaked out because you don't know what the heck that is and what it's doing here. And a lot of times, with a couple of my experiences, it was a guardian ghost. It was looking after us. It had even appeared to my sister and told her to close and lock her window. When I had seen it, it was about a week before my mother passed, and perhaps she was trying to warn her. But, they are here to protect us or to convey some sort of message, and sometimes they're just stuck, or they don't even know that they're dead, or they don't know what's going on. There's so many different variations, but I try to tell my kids, and I think that's the best way to explain it to people. We're all going to be a ghost someday, so would you want somebody to be afraid of you and not listen to what your message is? There's just different ways to look at it, but I find that the most calming and, best way to get through to them. So have you guys ever experienced something that terrified you?
I would have to say the funniest, we have some stories to that effect, and one was once a cockroach crawled out from under the computer when we were doing an investigation.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's freaky.
I think my favorite was the Georgetown Cemetery.
Georgetown, yes.
So we decided, Dawn wasn't there at the time, but we decided we're going to go into the cemetery at night. And the interesting part is, if you've been to Georgetown, the main part is all open, but it's kind of surrounded by some dense forest. And when you go in, the way we went in that night, I'd gotten some weird anomaly pictures during the daytime, which I thought was interesting. But we go in there at night, and we kind of start doing what I refer to as our Scooby-Doo walk, where we all kind of line up against each other's backs, and we're kind of walking together. And I had the flashlight. I was in front the one time I had the flashlight. And we're walking in there, and I think, Elise, you started talking about bears or mountain lions.
Yes,
She always does.
My fear. That's the only thing I'm afraid of.
So, I'm walking ahead, and all of a sudden, I kind of move the flashlight, and it kind of shines right behind me, and I see this huge, giant shadow, and I scream like I am being murdered. And Elise jumps up with mace or something in your hand, ready to do battle. And I realized that I am just afraid of my own shadow, and that was super embarrassing. So really, we had a big discussion about it afterwards, because while we're in that foresty area, we were really nervous, and that's where we'd gotten the weird photographs earlier that day. And then once we were out in the meadow area with the rest of the headstones, we all relaxed and we felt a lot more comfortable. And so part of us, we debated, is there a weird energy there that kind of had us all revved up and freaked out? Or, is there that sort of primeval feeling of being in the forest, in the dark, and you can't see things, and that just, tugs at those inner fears that we all have, and Stephanie's afraid of her shadow. So, but yeah, so we've had times where, we've gotten scared, but a lot of times it's from things in this world and ourselves.
So Kat in the chat room was asking, what does Denver Paranormal do when they cross a hoaxing situation? Likewise, have they ever had alien cases?
We ever had alien cases? The funny part is that if I watch a movie about aliens, I'm always oh, those aren't aliens, those are ghosts. I just was thinking of that movie, The Fourth Kind, and I watched that whole movie, and I was they're talking in tongues. This is ghosts. This is not aliens. So, you know, it was just funny that I guess it's maybe our perspective. I don't think I've ever had anybody.
No, we had a guy that was very much into aliens that went to our meetings and stuff sometimes, and he'd always be showing us videos, and it was the same thing. It would be like a rocking chair moving and an orb going through it, and he would tell us they were aliens, and we would look at it and say, no, those are ghosts. But we've never really had anyone.
Well, and I think that's kind of, you know, where we're at too, is, you know, we don't do general paranormal. We really do focus on ghosts, since that's what we feel like we know the best.
Yeah.
Because I think if I had an alien experience, I wouldn't know what to do with that.
Well, and you know how I feel about it. So, I think the only time that, like you mentioned, the Sand Creek area, when we went out there and we drove miles and miles, and the ranch owners said, by the way, we had county relations here just the last week or two, and that's the first time I ever even gave it thought. Like,
yeah, I mean, that kind of blew my mind. I guess I always thought, you know, it was somebody pranking or doing something, but when you're in that remote of a location, that was scary. I mean,
and you knew the landowners after spending a day with them.
They weren't kooks. They weren't crazy. And but yeah, that's why I told them, no, we don't know this. We don't know that area.
We are strangers in a strange land indeed. So have you guys, do you think that ghosts travel, or are they stuck in one area?
Well, I think that's kind of where you go into your classifications. So, you know, residual ghosts, they're not going to travel. They're not really conscious. It's just repeating energy. But I would like to think that other types of ghosts, more fully formed, I guess. I don't know how I would even classify that, but I'd like to think that they do. I kind of think about my grandfather passed away, and you know, all my family members, we all had these experiences where we felt like he was making contact with us in different ways, and we were all spread out throughout Colorado, and so you know, I like to think that they can.
I agree. I think they can as well. Not only based on the experiences I've had with entities following me home from locations.
Oh, right.
But also, I had a family member pass away, and she was a bit of a prankster. In the morning of her funeral, I had almost overslept, but what woke me up was somebody wiggling my big toe. And I really think it was her trying to wake me up, saying, hey, it's time for you to come to my funeral.
Come to my funeral.
Yeah, so I really do think they can travel. I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people think, you know, there can't be a ghost here because this house was just built, or, you know, why is the same energy here? I just moved. Sometimes it's attached to you. Sometimes it's attached to the property. It doesn't matter how new your house is. You know, there could have been something that happened there, or, you know, this property was one big property at one point, and it just kind of all connects, and wherever the energy decides to go, it does. And I don't know if it has to do with ley lines or positive energy in the house, or what it's looking for, but it's pretty interesting. What do you guys think about ley lines and vortexes?
Well, just to add to your other comment too is, you know, be aware of your antiques, because I think energy can be imprinted on material things as well. I had a house that they had activity, and I was pretty sure it was an antique mirror that was kind of the source of that activity. Ley lines are pretty fascinating. We had an investigation at People House in Denver, and that was sitting on a bunch of ley lines, and it definitely has some energy. One of the most interesting pieces I've had with ley lines was Stonehenge, and when I went out there, I was actually taking a tour, but I remember like being on this tour bus, and it almost felt like there was just this like pulse of energy as we as we kept getting closer and closer, it was like this pulse of energy, and then when we got there, it was just like crazy active, but not in a ghost sense. It was just this like huge center of energy, and that's all I can really even comprehend to like explain it. I didn't get anything weird on camera. Nothing happened. It just was one of those like places that I really felt like was a really sacred place on this earth, and you know, they built this area, and it felt like it was this pulse of electricity that just was still constantly. It was still going even today.
Yeah, it is funny how energy can find you or radiate. I remember when we were going to that Dylan Redwine case, I'm sitting in the back seat of this truck, and I'm just totally about to jump out of my skin. You know, I'm just full of all this energy, and I don't know where it's coming from. And I'm like, why do I feel like this? I'm not freaked out, really. So why do I feel like I'm about to jump out of my skin? But I think the energy was just so strong with us, and he was just so excited to share stuff with us that it was just radiating through us. And everybody was actually feeling it that night, and it was a pretty epic night. You know, nothing bad happened. You know, usually when you get that feeling, something bad's about to happen, but it didn't. You know, we did witness some really weird stuff, but at the same time, sometimes the energy is just so incredibly strong, and sometimes it just kind of creeps up on you. But Kat was saying she felt like you didn't really deal with the hoaxer part. Have you guys had anybody try to pull the wool over your eyes, whether it be UFO, alien, or supernatural? Is it more of a, you know, mental problem, or they just need the attention? Have you dealt with any hoaxers, really?
Well, we've had people who, I wouldn't say as like a client, but we've had people who like have joined our group and have tried to present themselves as one way, and they were not. So we've had kind of that issue. But for the client, I mean, I'm trying to think.
I mean, Dawn talked about the one early on the preliminary one that was pretty obvious. I think that there's definitely, we've had a couple people that, you know, wanted attention for sure. We've had a couple of those that we've never really investigated their places, but they just wanted to tell their story.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily a haunting or a ghost, but...
Well, and there's, you know, I do know of like a couple of groups that want to go out and debunk everybody.
Yeah.
And we're
careful with that.
Yeah, and they'll try and, you know, sell you on something that's, you know, to try and, I don't even really know what their purpose is at that point, but, you know, they have reputations around that. So, you know, I think, you know, you just...
And I know that because of that, we'll research beforehand. There's a lot of information out there, so you can look up an email and find a name and find a place and, you know, find more.
Yeah, be safe. Yeah.
Kind of get the background, know if it could potentially be someone who just likes to hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are different people out there that do try to get the attention, whether it's paranormal or supernatural, or even detrimentally through their own kids. It's pretty sad and scary world sometimes, and we've actually dealt with a few people that have had internal problems. We go there dealing with a demonic case. Come to find out this person has been through all kinds of negative scenarios as far as being abandoned, being abused, etc., etc. We did find this porthole in the house, but perhaps this has something to do with her not dealing with her issues, being that she's had issues through her workplace and so on and so forth. And we, you know, give all these tips, you know, make sure you do this cleansing, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. Go and get some help from a psychologist or a therapist, somebody to help you through your issues, even if you go to, you know, a group that is dealing with these sort of things, to try to get through these issues, because this can be radiating from this girl. She's in her late 20s, but she has the mentality of a teenager, and so kind of the poltergeist thing was coming through as well. But yeah, sometimes, there are people that are just full of it. Sometimes there are people with internal problems that are progressing externally. And sometimes it is a demonic or, otherwise supernatural or paranormal issue. But we have, like you were saying, people trying to infiltrate the group. We've had people come in and that's why we do background checks now, because they can appear one way, but you come to find out this person is a sex offender or this person is a child molester. We've had 2 try to infiltrate the group. Luckily, they never did, and we found out what they were beforehand, because we don't need that depleting the integrity of our group.
Right.
So, we do the background checks, and we also do the medical forms, just in case something does happen. You never know going in these different places. There could be a bad floor, there could be a hole in the ground, there could be something. And so we have medical forms for each member. But UFO Joe in the group said, having watched the movie The Sixth Sense, are there any of you who see dead people on an ongoing basis like the character of the movie? I thought that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I guess that's me. So one of the things like ghost hunting did for me was it really did give me a structured outlet to try and process through what I was going through. But I still wake up from time to time. I had one where I woke up in the middle of the night and there was a little girl standing by my bed, and she showed me in her hand that she had a bunch of teeth, and she told me, she's like, "This is all that's left of me," and she walked off. And so, I do have them where they just sort of pop up. I've gotten a lot more control since then, but I remember walking to class when I was in college, and I saw this guy who seemed really lost on campus, and I realized that he was kind of wearing this really old-fashioned suit from 1880s, 1900, I don't know. And he turned around and he looked at me, and he didn't have, he wasn't quite formed, and he was missing his eyes, but he just kept staring at me, and I was so unsettled. I didn't want to talk to him. And so for the rest of the semester, I never walked to class that same way. I just did not want to have to go through that again. So yeah, sometimes they just pop up, and it can be very real. And then sometimes, I just see them kind of in my mind, and I know, oh, hey, she has this white dress on, and she's, and so sometimes I can picture them there, I can hear their voices and things like that. So it just depends on the area, the situation, that type of thing.
Did anybody else have anything to add to that from the group?
I will often see entities. Sometimes they come across as shadow people. Sometimes they're a little more solid. So that's part of my experience as well.
Yeah, someone in the chat room, I believe it was Trip, and he was saying, do shadow people count? And I was saying, yes, they do. Some entities and spirits appear one way and some appear another. It's all according to what they know how to do or how they can get that energy to appear to you. Do you find it that spirits can appear in dreams more easily than in the physical awake world?
I definitely think that it's a lot easier. I think you're more open to it at that point. One of my favorites was my grandfather had died, and he showed up in my dream as a man in his, maybe he was 18, 20, and he was in his military uniform, and I was like, hey, Grandpa, and he's like, I'm going out to find me some ladies, and he was going out on town, and I really got the message, he's okay, he's able to do a bunch of stuff again, and he was living it up, and so, I kind of got that, and I had a tremendous amount of peace after having that dream. So.
I agree. I think that you kind of like when you're asleep, like you can kind of come into some kind of a similar like vibe or location or something that the spirit might be on, and if they want to make some kind of contact with you, that's a really good avenue for them to take.
Yeah, I had a experience like that with my mother. I was 5, almost 6, and she had been killed in a car accident. My sister actually saw her the night that she was in the accident. She wasn't dead yet, but she was brain dead. So she had come to the house, and she sat down and had a lengthy conversation with her. I wasn't up for that, which is weird because usually I'm up all night. My bedtime's usually like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Recently, I don't know if it's the alignment of the planets or what, the red moon, whatever. I haven't been able to sleep until like right before the sun comes up, but in a dream, she had actually come to me, and I'm walking through this, it looks like a park. You know, there's grass on each side of this sidewalk, and then there's trees on the side of the grass, and you can see the sidewalk going on forever. And then I saw a person walking towards me, and the closer she got, I could tell who it was. And, you know, I would increase my pace a little bit, and then we came to each other where a bench was, you know, and so that was pretty cool. We sat down and talked, and you know, she told me all my siblings' names, tell them I'm okay, everything's going to be okay, and I'm happy, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm not hurting anymore. And so the next day I ran down the stairs, 5, almost 6 years old, hey Dad, Mom said everything's okay, so don't worry, blah, 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 and he was just flabbergasted. What? Yeah, she came to me in a dream last night, and she told me all this stuff, and, you know, they only get so much time. I don't know what the rules are over there, but you know, before long they have to go. They can't just spend your whole dream with you, generally, unless you're one of the lucky ones. But she got the point across, and later on in life, I actually used a Ouija board. I'm a Jack Mormon. I was raised Mormon, and always taught, you know, D&D and Ouija boards and all this stuff is bad. And I was in the military during Hurricane Bonnie, and I tried to get on it with the girls in my platoon, and I was like, can I talk to my mom? And it was like, no. So I was like, F you, I'm going to go take a shower. I come back, everybody's watching the Titanic, which they'd watched a million times. But the Ouija board was left on my bed. There was nobody there. And I got on it, not knowing you're not supposed to do this alone. And it just started going off really quickly, saying my siblings' names again, tell them I'm okay, everything's okay, I can go wherever I want, whenever I want. And I asked her, are you with me when I need you? Yes, I'm always with you, but at the same time, she can be wherever she wants, whenever, and she can fly, and she can do all this other cool stuff, and, you know, take an astral hop, or, you know, go see the universe, or, you know, whatever she wants, she can go do, and that's where free agency comes in. It's pretty neat. But I was really excited, and I told my dad the next day, and he's like, well, you know, that could be a spirit trying to deceive you, which I've heard of many times, but I know in my heart that was my mom. But at the same time, my mentor, other people have asked me, hey, you want to get on this Ouija board, or you want to do a seance? And I'm just like, no, I'm good. I'll film it if you want me to, so I can capture whatever happens, but I'm not getting back on one of those again. What are your thoughts on a Ouija board? Oh, I'm sorry. We got to go to break. We'll come back right after these messages. You guys don't go anywhere.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens, or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty, from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together we own the night.
find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. It's hour number 3 of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. Follow Tessa on Twitter at Tessa TNT. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now back to the Rocky Mountains. Here's Tessa.
Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you so much for tuning in this weekend. Tonight we have the Denver Ghost Hunters on with us. You guys, welcome back.
Thank you.
So we left off on Ouija boards. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we've used some in the past, but a lot of it was just sort of doing some experimentation to see what we would get. Personally, I'm a believer that it's, I don't know, you get what you pay for, or get what you put into it. So I typically don't worry too much about it. I think you have to have some basic rules, but to me, you're taking a moment to open yourself up to that other side, whether you're doing EVP, any other type of tool. So you have to just make sure that you close it and you open it, and if you're uncomfortable, don't do it. But I don't necessarily believe all the crazy stories. And then we've used the Frank's box, which is kind of similar in the sense where it's randomized.
Yeah.
Radio.
I personally think that, I don't really like the Ouija board, but it's just kind of boring to me, probably because I'm not as psychic or able to, but to me, I don't really see the difference between using a Ouija board versus using a video camera or a EVP device to try to talk.
It's just another tool to use.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of what it can do for you.
So Kat in the chat room was wondering, is the Ouija board any different than hanging a pencil on a string over a yes or no sheet?
I don't know that I would even see them as that different.
Yeah.
I guess I would. They're kind of all in the same kind of category, I would think. But I'm by no means a Ouija board expert by that. We've just experimented with it a few times, but it's not a go-to tool that we use. What I find fascinating is if we're teaching a class and we bring it out as an example and everybody freaks out. That's kind of funny because it definitely changes the energy in the room and people get scared, and I'm like, it's just, it's the same as what you're doing with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, some people think that, it's an easy way for lower level entities to get through, and, they've always passed it off as, this is just a parlor game. It's, there's really nothing to it. When in all actuality there is. Do you find that they're trying to be deceitful in any way, just passing it off as like a parlor trick, or do you think it's just another tool to use?
Like people are deceitful, or the ghosts are deceitful?
Well, the people that are selling it as just a parlor game and really nothing to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've never really thought about it. What do you guys think?
I don't have that much experience with Ouija boards. I've had some negative experiences with them in my youth, so I don't tend to use that tool.
Yeah, I guess we don't have enough knowledge there because we really have just experimented. We've done some things like, blindfolded a couple people while they try it out to see if results are different. But
well, and I guess it's in the digital age now, and you go and buy a ghost hunting app on your phone. Is that any different? I mean, you're selling that experience, I guess. And so, to me, if you're going out for that experience, you should know what you're getting into. Maybe.
Have you guys used any phone apps for your ghost hunting?
No, I haven't. Have you guys?
I haven't.
Mm-mm.
I haven't. We've been on, we investigated the Myrtles plantation with someone who had one of those apps once. It was, I don't know how I feel about them.
It was really weird.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of strange. Like, it just kept repeating, like, the same set of words that it was just, and everybody would freak out, and I'm like, how do you know it's not just some sort of algorithm?
Yeah.
Repeating it. Like, I just was, I don't know.
I do have a hard time with those, too, because it's coming from a computer that...
No, my husband's a programmer, so it's like, well, who knows what they programmed into it?
He'd be like, this ghost is a real perv.
Yeah. But, I do use other apps. Like, we definitely use weather apps. We are looking at, kind of conditions in the field. I've used the compass and any kind of stuff that we can measure. I mean, definitely. But I have downloaded the app that puts ghosts into your photos.
Yes.
I have to admit to that one.
The white lady on the street.
Trying
to do that on a bunch of...
That's a good one. I like the Elvis one as well. So. That's the Elvis.
I want Elvis in my pictures. I've had people send me those.
Doesn't.
What do you think of this? I'm like, I think that's a ghost app on your phone that sticks a ghost in your picture. But thanks for trying.
Right.
Please try to play again. So Kat's wondering, what tools do you use and what do you do with the information after you are done with the case?
So typically, like, we do have some files. Sometimes we do write-ups with it. We'll use everything from like thermometers and stuff to checking it. So unless it's like a significant anomaly that we want to peg in a specific area, then we might write it down. We'll use camera equipment. We have extenders for infrared and ultraviolet light.
We do have a FLIR app.
We do FLIR.
Phone.
We have K2 meters, and I've even had stuff to kind of look at different types of, radio waves and things that might be impacting.
Ultraviolet flashlight.
Yep.
Just to catch the other end of the spectrum by chance.
We've used the Radio Shack hack thing a couple of times.
Glow in the dark balls sometimes to see if they can move in the dark with a video on them.
We've done that. We'll bring specifically, like, we can bring toys and stuff too to see if anything gets reaction to that.
Trigger objects.
Trigger objects.
Yeah, trigger objects. Tripods to have stagnant cameras. Because we had one where we were in Victor, Colorado, and we're walking around with our cameras and we're not catching anything. And we had a stagnant camera in the corner, and there were orbs and stuff behind us every single time we were in our room. So they were always standing right behind us, which we thought was really funny. We're pretty open to trying new stuff. I even tried using a GoPro, and we use our phones. You guys really
systems.
Yeah, and you guys really like some of the older recorders, right?
Yeah.
Because they're heavier.
Prefer the ones that do waves still.
Yep.
Shar was wondering, what is that app? Because she thinks somebody put that on her phone, as far as the ghost pics.
There's all sorts of apps out there.
I would just go and put it in the App Store and see what you get back, but I think there's a bunch of them. I even had one that did dinosaurs. That was pretty fun.
For Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Scary Ghost Camera is one. You can pick different
fonts for that, or different entities to put in your picture.
And then Ghost Cam FX is another one.
Yeah,
they're fun, but you can definitely see them out there on the internet. With the Ghost Boy is a big one I see all the time. Like you guys probably saw the one with the lady sitting on the couch and all the laundry everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's hell, man. That's hell. I don't want to be stuck in eternity with all this laundry. So you were saying that you had some EVPs to share.
We do. Do you have... I'll let you pick out a couple. You want to give us a little bit of background on some of those, Elise?
How do we get back in there?
Oh, you need back in. 1 second, guys. We're just pulling them up. What do you want? There you want EVPs.
Okay. So we have, not sure how they're going to sound with our setup that we have here, but we thought we'd try a couple, and if not, they're on our website. One of them we were going to try is, and I'm looking as I'm talking, so since Don's favorite cemetery is the Lafayette Cemetery, we have one, and there's actually two ladies speaking in here, and I'm hoping you'll be able to hear it. Is there one I should pick a wave or MP? Go.
The wave will sound better.
So you... And then how do I work this? Oh. Were you able to hear that?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of different voices. The first one is someone kind of scolding us, and I'll kind of feed it, we were late. I believe you. And then the other one is the second voice, and she's very distraught, and she says, I'll play it one more time, and just so everybody can try to hear it. So you can hear a guy talking in the far background, but the first voice is a very almost sexy voice saying, "You're late," all flirty. And then the second voice is extremely distraught and saying, "Whoever you are, you're very late." And we actually were very late. And the cool part was we had met at the cemetery with another ghost hunting team, and they got the same EVP. And they were on the other side of the cemetery, which kind of makes you really wonder, how it all works. Mm-hmm. But they only got the second part of it, the distraught lady. They didn't get the first one. Or at least they didn't see it. So I can play it one more time if you want. Let's do one more.
Stick it up a little closer if you can.
Yeah. Oh. The volume is it going up? Not, it's all the way up, but it's not playing now.
Hang on 1 second.
No worries.
So there's one EVP, and that is up on our website where you can play it over and over if someone wants to listen to it more.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just looking. There's another one, and this might be, I'm assuming since it's after midnight, we can do curse words on here.
It depends on the curse word.
This one was at Bed and Breakfast in Victor, and since you were talking about the orbs all being behind us, we were actually walking around saying, there's nothing here, we're not really getting much. And then I'll just play this one. If it's, what's this mean? Unsupported file type.
Oh.
Never mind.
We're playing them off of our phone, so.
Yeah, it's funny how sometimes it will work and sometimes it doesn't. It's like, who's messing with my stuff?
So we'll skip that one. But a long story short, someone said stupid bitch after we were saying we weren't getting anything. There's another one.
You want to do this one?
Yeah, we could do this one. So we weren't ghost hunting this night, but this is a phone call from the dead, which we just love. I don't know if you guys can hear that.
I can barely hear it. Is there any way to get it closer?
Let me see if I can get our volume up all the way.
It's a very classic whispery EVP.
Mm-hmm. I could hear a whisper, but I couldn't quite make out what he was saying.
You're going to hear, "It's over, bye."
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I definitely
You hear
heard
that one?
Yeah.
So you want to tell the story?
Well, it was Stephanie's bachelorette party, and we weren't ghost hunting at all. But any chance I can get, I'll stay at any historic hotel in Colorado because they're all crazy busy, fun. So we stayed at the Oxford Hotel, and we were leaving the next morning, and I got a phone call. And it didn't record even a blank number or anything. It just rang, and I went to get it, and it was too late. I went to messages, and that was the message on the phone.
It's over, bye.
Wow.
And the really interesting part was that the Oxford, if you know the history, has a story of a murder-suicide where a wife caught her husband cheating, and she killed them at the hotel and then killed herself. So it's kind of one of those, like, definitely feels like the relationship is over at that point.
Yeah, that's interesting, and they're trying to put it over on your, wedding day. I believe that's what you were saying, right? This was the day of your wedding?
Yeah, it was my, yep.
Wow. Thanks for sharing, Spirit.
Yeah. Another one we could do is, let's see, how about, so we were at a knocked over.
Oh, yeah.
We were at a cemetery around, I think in Lakewood, and there was it was a weird night. There was a lot of weird energy. An interesting thing that happened is there was a sulfur smell in the middle of the cemetery, like in the middle, like someone lit a match or something. We could go down that road or not, but it was, and Stephanie saw some shadow people walking around, and I was just stopped looking at a stone, and Stephanie came up to ask what I was looking at, and someone answered what I was looking at for me, and here's what it said. See if it plays. Not playing. It's your phone. Sorry, more technical.
That's okay. I don't know.
Oh.
To take a lot of effort.
You can hear Stephanie come up and say, "What is it?" And then you hear someone else say, "It's knocked over." And then I said, it had to take a lot of effort. But you can hear the third voice in there in between us. And here we go again.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was like a man's voice. It's knocked over.
Yeah. And it was just Elise and I, so there wasn't a man around that we
Nope.
knew of.
Yep. Not that we were aware of.
Yeah.
There was a shadow, though.
Yeah.
Shadow person Stephanie was following around. So that one's kind of fun. The other one might be harder to hear. So this was in Leadville, in the Opera House there. And you can hear me naming, I was doing a sound off of everyone that was around before we started our EVP session. And you can hear a whisper. I hesitated because I couldn't see in the dark who was out further, and I was just looking. And you can hear someone throw in their name.
Here with Don, Eric, Jamie, Stephanie, Elise, and Dave and Sharon.
So you could hear me say and then you hear a whisper. And
yeah, was it a female?
Yes, yep. And I'll play it one more time.
Here with Don, Eric, Jamie, Stephanie, Elise, and Dave and Sharon.
So a lot
It sounds
of people,
like she says Virginia.
Yeah, that's what we hear as well, Virginia. And we've asked them to do some of the history, and we have not found a Virginia yet, but...
Yeah, I just got goosebumps really bad. Holy shnikes! That's awesome. Yeah, you got to find out who that is, because she feels like her name was left out for sure.
We looked everywhere. We spent a lot of time like, who is this lady? There's another one. A lot of people know about Cheeseman Park and the people there and the story of, I mean, we could go into that, but probably look
the body.
it up.
Yeah. They moved the headstones, but not the bodies.
Yeah. But
yeah,
there's another park right across the street from there that was also part of the graveyard, and we had gone over there and were investigating that area. And it's interesting, that was a crazy night too, with 5 police cars pulling up on us with headlights because there's a water plant there, so they were wondering why there, but then they're like, oh, you're good to go after we told them. But we were over by where they buried the paupers, I think, or in everybody was, they had a sick house they kept until they died, and then they'd bury them. I forget the history of it.
Yeah, so the Congress Park used to be the Jewish section, actually.
Oh, okay.
But it's sitting on the area, like adjacent to it is where they used to house people who had like TB and other types of terminal illnesses. They would lay them in these buildings until they would move them, until they died, and they were going to bury them. And so, there was a lot of sick people here in this one building that we're outside of.
That one's harder to hear.
It's harder to hear, but you'll hear a man say, can somebody bring me some water?
Yeah, I heard a man's voice, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
I'll
creepy.
play it one more time.
Bring me some water?
Yeah, exactly.
Trip was asking, when you guys were in the middle of the cemetery and you smelled the sulfur, did you check to see if there was a well that could have contained hard water? Was there a well anywhere around? That's pretty rare for a cemetery. But he was just trying to fill out different aspects. If there was a well with hard water, it could smell like sulfur. Did you guys find anything like that around?
We didn't look because it's pitch black there, but that's a good,
That's a good thought.
We could pull out a map and look and see. I didn't give it much thought, really. It was just an interesting piece of the night.
They have a crematorium and stuff there, too. So there's a lot of probably different smells and things going on over there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Those EVPs are amazing. Did you guys have any more to share?
We could try. There's another one that's a lot harder to hear, but we'll try to play it, the Stupid Jerk one.
Okay, yeah.
This is from the Denver Fire Museum, and it's one of my favorites because I think it was all girls that night investigating, and this is a man's voice, and he starts off, and I don't know if I want to say it because you guys will hear it a lot better if I just tell you, but I'll play it first. But he's kind of talking to himself, and then you can hear him get a little faster and a little more angry. It is really hard to hear. It's a very echoey building, but you can hear him. You can hear a lot of S's in there, and he's saying "stupid jerk." He's just a stupid jerk, and then at the very end he's like "stupid jerk" really fast. So it's really funny.
There's one last one in there before the end of it.
Yeah, and you can. Unfortunately, it's very echoey, and you can hear everything. But if you listen for the S's, you can hear it. It's very whispery, classic EVP, so it's a little hard to hear. But let's try it again. Here we go. Jerk. So you can hear him say it really fast at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can hear that one.
Can you play it one more time, just a little closer?
Yeah. Yep. One more. It comes out here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'll do one more time. And then you just want to listen for the S, and you'll hear him.
Yeah, I can definitely hear that. Stupid jerk.
Yeah. And he just says it over and over.
He's really irritated at somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody is a stupid jerk.
Yeah. And there was definitely, that place had, I think that night the water faucet was going on by itself, and we had video of someone going in and turning it off and cursing, why are you guys leaving the water on? And then you could come back on.
She thought it was one of us, and it was because nobody was walking in to turn it on. So she just kept going in to turn off the water.
Oh. And this is another one from the Fire Museum down in the basement. But it's a little louder, and it goes really quick. Now see, it's a weird voice. You can hear someone talking, and then there's a weird creaky whisper. I'll play it one more time. Oops. That one's pretty loud. I don't know if you heard it. It's pregnant.
What we think it says. And of course, all of us girls are like, it's not me, I'm not pregnant.
Yeah. I didn't drink the water.
No.
So I'll play it one more time now that we've said it, just so.
Pregnant, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It's always clear after you hear someone say the word.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
And the history is, kind of convoluted. There's a lot of, sort of urban legends around that, but nothing about being pregnant or anything that we've found.
No.
So maybe someone's wife was pregnant or something like that. I don't know.
So Shar was asking on the one where it was saying stupid jerk, are all those voices spirits? I believe some of those were your guys's, right? Or were those all just...
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe the only one there was the stupid jerk. The rest was us being loud and echoey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to stay quiet sometimes when you're trying to communicate. It's like, I'm trying to communicate. How can I stay quiet?
Yeah. And that one was captured on an old camera, a video camera, a Sony night vision camera. So it wasn't actually a recorder.
Like a high, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few of those, and, we have talked about this several times, wondering, why does the old equipment actually pick up more than the new? And I think because they try to block out all kinds of background noise and other noise that they think shouldn't be in the recording when that's actually what you're looking for.
Right. Yes.
So that's very cool that you guys still use the old school stuff.
Yeah, I think we tend to get more, and it's funny because you need a new pair of headphones and they're all noise canceling, and it's like, I don't want noise canceling headphones.
You need to hear it.
I need to hear everything. So I just wanted to say to our listeners, if you guys had any questions that you want to call in with, we are keeping track of the chat rooms. But if you have a question, feel free to call in 970-335-9596. That's 970-335-9596. And that being said, do you guys have any more EVPs, or are you up for another question?
We're up for more questions.
Nice. So I was wondering, is it wise to bring home souvenirs from a ghost hunting trip, and what could go wrong with that?
Well, so there is this, like, I've heard stories about, like, people picking up stuff from, like, ghost towns, and then all of a sudden, like, they feel like they're cursed, or there's a story about them being cursed for picking up rocks and different things from a ghost town. And so much so that, like, people have then written letters to, like, the park rangers and stuff, and wanting to return things so that they can, break the curse that they actually took something from one of the old ghost towns. I don't know about that, but I try to be as respectful as I can, and I wouldn't go over to someone's house and randomly take their stuff and go.
Yeah.
That doesn't look nice. So, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of like when you're hiking, you go and appreciate it, but leave everything where you found it.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
Yeah, I was actually out below Mesa Verde, and we were out there jackrabbit hunting. And we came into this ravine. It's wintertime, so there's snow in some places, mud in others. And we came upon this place, and I think it might have been an old kiln or something. It could have been a burial plot, but there was different broken pieces of pottery there, and I picked up a few pieces and took it with me. And a couple of those I kept in my car because I didn't want to leave them in my house. My daughter was 2 years old at the time, and she might have messed with them or put them in her mouth or broken them. And not too much longer after that, I was actually in a car accident. And so one of the first things I did was take that broken pottery back to where I found it, and I put it back just in case that had anything to do with me having this horrific car accident. It was almost a 500-foot drop-off. It ended up being a 50-footer, and we went and hit nose first and then landed in a big old bunch of soft pine needles. But I was like, I think I'm taking this pottery back. I don't think I'm meant to have this, and perhaps I should return it before anything else bad happens and, claim somebody. Luckily, we all got out unscathed. We had a couple of abrasions, but otherwise it was all good. But yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, well, and that's where, even when you buy antiques, make sure that you feel really good about the antique,
Don't get the haunted doll.
Yeah, don't get the haunted crazy doll. Be like, I actually knew another ghost hunter at one point, and he liked to collect things that were haunted, and he started kind of going crazy at one point. I mean, we stopped ghost hunting with him because he was kind of losing his mind, so I don't know how many ghosts he had in his house at that point.
Yeah, we kind of feel like we have a Grand Central Station here, and it's funny how different things draw you in. Like you're saying, make sure it feels good. Some people go to a house and they're like, oh, it feels good, this is my home, and then as soon as the family moves in, all kinds of things go chaotic. Sometimes things kind of reel you in and be like, hey, I'd like to go to that place, and as soon as it gets there, it's just total and utter chaos. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to decipher those things. Is it actually good, or does it just want to go home with me? But yeah, my kids have seen a lot of things here.
We're talking about ghosts here, not like some weirdo at the bar, right?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those too, but yeah, different pieces of furniture or different houses, it's like, this is perfect, this is my home, and then not too much longer after that, you realize, well, this place is haunted. Ours, it's actually a guy that died from emphysema. And my neighbor, she has Asperger's, and she came down and she's like, yeah, this guy, he lived here and he died from this and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, well, that's unfortunate, but, thanks for sharing the info. And I really didn't put too much weight on it until one day I was here alone, getting ready for work. I worked at the casino bartending at the time, and everybody was gone, and I got ready, I left, and as I'm walking past my bedroom window, I hear a man coughing in my room, and I'm like, holy shnikes, I gotta get out of here. Usually I'm not scared by things, but I'm in my own house, and I hear a man in my bedroom where I just was, like, who the heck is that? But we've gotten used to him. He's actually pulled a few pranks on the kids, appearing under a sheet to my daughter one time. We were at an investigation in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and this was an actual investigation, not a paranormal one, and we actually did experience all kinds of paranormal stuff in this hotel, but the kids call us up one night, there's this thing in the living room, and it's really tall, it's taller than the lamp, and it's under a sheet, and Nova saw it, and then she ran into my room, and I don't want to see it, but Misty, her friend that was spending the night, peeked around the corner and was just hysterically frightened. So she had seen it too, and our buddy Dennis, we call him our shade tree mechanic, he came over and scoped out the place, and he's like, well, maybe it's this rug that's rolled up right next to the lamppost, but it was actually shorter than the lamppost, and the kids are like, no, that wasn't it at all, but he ended up staying the night with them and making sure, nothing else happened, and, it wasn't, I don't know, I think it was just trying to get a rise out of them or get their attention somehow, and it just really freaked them out. And we've had all kinds of other stuff happen here. I can't even go into it. It'd take all night, but it's amazing what you inherit, getting a house or, like you were saying, furniture or whatnot.
Yeah, I had a roommate in college, and she her grandmother had died, and she inherited all of her furniture, and then I found out, like, the gruesome story was that she had died and no one found her for a while, so she'd been in there a while. Anyway, so we get this furniture, and sure enough, like, the lamps are going on, turning on and off by themselves, and I'm like, hey, maybe you should have checked things out before you brought grandma's furniture over. And she's like, do you think it's haunted? I said, yeah, I think you got some haunted grandma furniture in there.
Yeah, like, that side table's really creeping me out. The lamps, yeah, for sure. This one here in my studio, when I first came in here, it was all good, and then all of a sudden it started going on and off, on and off, on and off, and then to go off, and then on, and then off, and now it just won't turn on anymore, so, I don't know, I've tried different light bulbs. I haven't tried it recently, because I kind of gave up on that, so it could be wiring, or it could be somebody not wanting me to have a cooler light in here, and I'm burning up with these little lamps right next to me, but, yeah, it's pretty funny what can come along with, different material things. It's funny how people cling on to different things, and it could be a loved one, it could be a loved piece of furniture or whatever. It's very sad that her grandma wasn't found for a while. That can be pretty traumatic.
Yeah. It was pretty sad. So.
Yeah, it does happen though, to the best of us. So what would be your top 5 must-see places for someone looking for a paranormal adventure in Colorado or elsewhere?
Well, I always highly recommend Manitou Springs. They have a lot of ghosts up there, and they're very open to it as well. So you can go to, like, their museums and some of their bed and breakfasts, except for the Cliff House. They have ghosts, but they don't like to talk about their ghosts. And what else would you guys say? Cheeseman Park, of course, is the big one. One of our favorites, if you're here in October, Botanic Gardens does a Ghost in the Gardens tour, which was all part of originally the Denver Cemetery, where they, again, moved the bodies, moved the headstones, but not the bodies. Mm-hmm. So the Botanic Gardens has a coroner on staff for when they dig and find things. But they have the security guards and stuff will tell you ghost stories of what they've experienced there, and that's always a really, really fun tour.
And along that line, Cheeseman Park or Congress Park.
Yep, all of that.
Anytime. Any hotel, I think any older hotel in Denver or any town around has history. Colorado has amazing violent and crazy history, and all hotels at some point were a brothel or a hospital or apartment.
I had crazy experiences over at the Hotel Colorado in Glenwood. I think I'll just talk about the little elephant in the room, and a lot of people want to go and see the Stanley, and if you're really into the Stanley, you can go and see that. I never found that they were, I felt like they kind of blew it up more than what it really is. Not to say that we didn't have experiences there. We did, but, they really, it's kind of like the Disneyland of haunted hotels that you can go to. Like, they have, like, a whole little, like, amusement park area.
Well, yeah, and they just don't have the history there. It was a resort where people went to heal, but there wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, Manitou has way more stuff going for it than I think Estes Park does in that sense. So Estes Park is beautiful.
Yes, and Leadville is a fun town too. So.
Leadville, yep.
Yeah, I have heard that about the Stanley Motel. People go there expecting something, and they really don't get a lot. And I've heard stories, there was a bum that died down here in the lower levels and yada yada, but you don't get the whole, like, Shining ordeal or experience. And I have seen pictures where you can see this pair of kids running, but then that kind of brings me back to thought forms. People, just replaying this image in their head of what they saw in the movie and etc. And that can form something, to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The mind is a powerful thing, and it's pretty interesting how it works and how it can put those things out there. But yeah, I've heard not so epic things about ghost hunting there.
Yeah, it's so that's one of the things we really love to ghost hunt in places that people may not know about, and so we'll kind of stay clear of some of the more Disneyland-esque type of areas. So, but yeah, I mean, those are kind of our big ones. Like, and even like the as for stories, Cheeseman Park was based on, like, a couple of different movies and books, The Changeling, Poltergeist. So, different things have sparked things. I always think Morrison or Golden are both really good places to ghost hunt. They have very interesting history, violent history in some aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Victor's a big place.
Yep.
Too.
Yep.
Lesser known.
And very, very, very active. So, but yeah, Leadville's always a good one too. There's a bar in Leadville. Is that the Silver Dollar?
Yeah.
Where you go in there and you can actually see, like, they have pictures of people, like, that were hung and stuff in the town, and it's pretty crazy. You can take a history tour out there. So
yeah, it's pretty gruesome.
I don't know, how many did we get? It is gruesome. How many did we get?
More than 5.
More than 5?
Yeah, I think you covered it. So are there any particular hauntings, through the different investigations that you guys have done that have stood out to you?
The things that have stood out for us that are, like, really significant hauntings. I
think they all do at one point or another for various reasons.
Yeah.
Various stories.
If there's an experience in a location, then, and especially if we have the evidence to back it up, then that's something that really we remember and reflect on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was one, like the Leadville Hotel is in my mind, the Delaware Hotel. They were, they don't have ghosts. They
do now. They do tours. Yeah.
Now they do tours and stuff, but when we did it, they don't have ghosts. But we can come stay there, and you just ask, give me the haunted room. Oh, no, we don't have that here. And the first time I stayed there, had a huge experience. Someone sitting on the bed and colors everywhere, dizzy, and pacing in the room. And then the next time we went up there, it was like, well, yeah, you can stay here. We do have ghosts, but we're not going to talk about them, and then we'll stage the place after you go. Mm-hmm. And then that very next time, we brought a stranger that stayed in our room and put her in the bed where that experience was, and we didn't tell her what the experience was, and she had the exact same experience. So those are the kind of things that are really fun, that kind of stand out for me.
One of I sometimes get into, like, I love the psychological ones in some ways. Like, we have, for people who are in Denver, we have Riverdale Road out here.
Yes.
So we have the first time we were out there, I was walking down the road, and it's like this dirt road, and in the distance I could see like this figure of a man, and I just remember these like cowboy boots, and I start getting like really, really worked up and kind of freaked out. And then at some point I like turned around, I said some cuss words, and I was like, I am out of here, and I took off running, and this like orb kind of thing chased me down the road. And the interesting part is if you walk on the east side of the road, you don't really have any of those feelings. But if you walk on the west side of the road, you start to have this sort of panicked feeling. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I wanted to test is I would bring out people who are not ghost hunters, who have no experience, they don't know any of the stories. And so I would have them walk down the west side of the road. And every single time they would get nervous and turn around and run back. And so it was one of those things where you start to see that something is sort of looped out there that's like replaying itself, and you sort of step into this thing. And I have some different theories on, what might have happened out there based on kind of the experience that I had. Because typically, I don't really get scared on investigations, but that one really unnerved me. Mm-hmm. And Riverdale Road is really known for a lot of people dying on that road. There's a lot of accidents. There's murder victims there, and it's not a bad part of town by any means, but it has a long and sordid history from settlers and Indian massacres to just recently a woman was shot in her car, and so luckily they found that person who did it. But it has a long and history of weird things happening on that road.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm not in that area, but I know we have a member of our chat room that is up in that area. I'm hoping that someday we can go check it out together. And I know there are a lot of places. Have you guys ever checked out the Brown House? I believe it was Molly Brown?
Molly.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes they have like free nights in Denver where you can go tour it at night, which is kind of cool. But it really depends upon who's kind of running things, whether they'll let you take pictures or do any evidence. So you have to kind of keep it on the low down if you're doing anything in there. They used to be open to ghosts, and now I think they're not again. So it just really depends on that. But if you're into that, you can also go down to Kirk Patterson. Even the Brown Palace has a very interesting history of suicides and things like that there.
Did you guys get any messages from the Molly Brown house?
I don't remember getting any evidence there at all. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it seems pretty quiet. It's interesting to check out as far as history and whatnot, but it does seem like a pretty quiet location. I was just interested to see if there was any sort of history that is still there, whether it's intelligent or like a replay.
Yeah, and I think like some of the tour guides and stuff have said like they smell like cigar smoke from time to time, and like I think they've had some different experiences in the house, but we definitely didn't through our tour. We were with a bunch of people. We didn't have anything.
So, Shar in the chat room was wondering, that EVP about the guy wanting water, do you think that was an imprint or was that intelligent?
I'm hoping it was an imprint. but it's just, but I guess I never talked to them. I didn't talk to him, so I would assume that it's an imprint.
That was my gut on it.
Yeah.
It was an imprint, but we didn't know about it until later on, so we didn't really investigate it further.
Mm-mm.
It's interesting how you get those replays and, people walking through the walls and taking their general path that they would in the past. And then when you get an intelligent one, that's just epic. What is the most intelligent spirit you guys have come across?
That'd be Melting Pot.
Probably.
Yeah, so here's the funny part. Like, there's the Melting Pot is in Littleton. One of them is, and it's pretty active. But no one's ever actually died there.
No.
But the ghost that we've interacted with is, like, a nut. And so, like, one of the first EVPs we got there was, like, him saying, "Take her wallet." And then, hey, Ghostbusters. And then the one I remember that was really distinct was you didn't even need a EVP or anything. You could hear it in the room, and he kept going meow, meow. It was unnerving. But they have had a huge problem with him stalking young women. So at one point, the current men's bathroom used to be the women's bathroom, until he kept joining women in the bathroom and standing behind them in the mirror, and they got so many complaints that they actually had to switch the bathrooms out. And and then of course, people have reported seeing this man who was leering at them, leering at their wives or whatever, and there's no one there. So, he just is very interactive and a little crazy.
And they switched the bathrooms out. It didn't help, right?
No, it
didn't.
He just moved
to the
other bathrooms.
Went over.
Yeah.
What a perv.
Yeah, he's a perv.
Total.
Which makes you kind of know what kind of person he was in real life. So people are like, "Oh, can the dead see you in the bathroom?" Absolutely, they can see you in the bathroom.
Yeah, my daughters, they were telling me the other day, one is moved out, she's 18, so she's moved out on her own, the other is 14, but they were both talking about how in the bathroom they feel like they're being watched when they're taking a shower and whatnot, and I was like, I wish you guys would have told me this earlier, because then I could have done something about this by now, but, now that I know, maybe I can take some preemptive strikes or something. I don't know how exactly to... take care of that. Just be firm and direct, and you better not be in here or I'll banish you.
Yeah, that's how I'd handle it. Be like, "Hey, I'm showering. Get out of here."
Yeah. I'm afraid to close my eyes because I'm afraid of a spider jumping on my face, but I never thought of it as, somebody watching me. And they're like, "No, Mom, there's totally this creep factor in there. Like, you could feel like some perv is watching you." And I'm like, all right, I got to deal with this. Well,
that's awesome.
We are at the end of our show, surprisingly. Can you tell our listeners how to find you or get a hold of you if they do have any paranormal activity?
Sure. We are pretty frequent on our Facebook page. You can go to Denver Ghost Hunters on Facebook and post questions, and you can post your own evidence and get reviews and things like that. We also love to post stuff on the, ghosts in the news, that kind of thing. We also have DenverGhostHunters.com, which is our website. You can send us emails through that. And then if you're in the area, we do have a meetup group called Denver Ghost Hunters, and that is, again, the social group. So we do social activities from time to time and set up different tours that you can take and things like that.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show tonight. It was so wonderful having you this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun.
Dawn and Stephanie, you guys all have a wonderful evening. And thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, Deep Talk Radio, and wherever else in the universe you may be listening tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening. It was my pleasure, literally and figuratively. I can't wait to do it again tomorrow on Spaced Out Radio Psychic Sundays on spacedoutradio.com. Tomorrow night we will have the Rescue Medium on, and his name is Ron Sherman. He's pretty epic at what he does. So you guys don't forget, we are all in this together. Together we can make the world a little better, and together, my friends, we own the night. Until next time, nighty night, love and light to all my space cases out there. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Saturday night. And for those of you across the pond in Australia and whatnot, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I can't wait to see you all back here tomorrow night. You guys have a wonderful evening and day. Enjoy yourselves. Make sure you put that love and light and prayers out there for Dave. He still needs us as he is going through a hard time with his family. But thank you so much again for being here tonight. I really love hanging out with you guys, and I hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Nighty night, love and light. Sweet dreams. And bye-bye till tomorrow.